I'm excited to have this guest here today. And, from his journalism background to film, it's just been an exciting journey. So my guest today, you can introduce yourself to our viewers.
Thank you so much for inviting me today. Hello, I'm Ahmed Tahsin Shams. I'm a PhD student in the media school at Indiana University, Bloomington, and I'm interested in teaching and filmmaking. Also, I had a background in journalism earlier. So that's in short what I am. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Welcome to the Voice Watch Diaspora. And I didn't tell you my name. I am Caroline Obuya. Shams, I've been really looking for this opportunity to talk to you, because you're a big name in film, I can say. So how did you get to film? How did you get to film first? Tell us.
So how did I get to film? It's a calling, I would rather say. Mm-hmm. Before I started my schooling, I was too much enthusiastic about cinema. Mm-hmm. I started my main schooling started with cinema. Let's put it in that way. So even when I started my first day at school, before that I was watching a lot of cinematic stuff on screen. Mm-hmm. And the way I was doing it, let me tell you in this way. So when I was 5 years old, 4 to 6 years old, that's the time. I started my schooling when I was 6 years old. Yeah. And 4 to 6, I was watching a lot of series and cinema because one of my uncle started a new business of VHS cassette. Mm-hmm. And that was right in front of our house on the street, where people rent those cassettes. Yeah. And because it was my uncle's, I used to get all those cassettes free. And that's how I started watching. And I remember even the few ones from 85 to 95, those kind of films that I got introduced to. Mostly, yes, the industry was dominated by Indian film industry in Bangladesh. I'm from Bangladesh, just to let all of you know. So yes, Indian cinema was quite prominent. Apart from that, I remember clearly things that fascinated me. Firstly, MacGyver, that's a thriller, like a Sherlock Holmes problem-solving series. Yeah. MacGyver was released in 1985 in the US. So that was one of the things in the early 90s that I got fascinated with, and I watched all series like every day and night. So these things I started before I started my school. Yeah. And then one cartoon I remember, Captain Planet. It was released in 1990. Mm-hmm. So apart from the Indian or South Asian content, I got access to the global series and cartoons as well. And since then, I won't say I wanted to be a filmmaker, but it's kind of like I associated myself with what I was looking at. And that association at a point becomes passion. So at a point, what we do every day, we transform from viewer to maker. Because it becomes a habit now, so you get to know the process, how it is done. First, we love the content. Then we get to know how it was made. And then once that becomes a passion when it clicks, that, it's not only about consuming content, but at a point I felt like I also want to make. So cut to that childhood to after late teenage, when I finally decided. Until then, I didn't decide. I won't say it was ever my aim in life to become a filmmaker. I only knew that I'm passionate about it. I like knowing the process. But my late teenage, when I finished my old schooling, then I decided I will be in the industry of storytelling. I won't say filmmaking was the goal. Mm-hmm. So I was not sure back then yet when I was 17 to 19. But I knew that storytelling is something that kind of kicks me, that I wanted to be in that field, whether in the form of teaching or in the industry. That also was not decided back then, like that I want to be a teacher also. I mean, that became quite late. When I finished my undergrad, I found my niche and expertise more in visual storytelling, as well as having an academic approach to that. Like teaching and training, and through little workshops and through little experiences, I understood that, I have maybe a certain level of skill on that. So I just processed and progressed on whatever skill set I had.
All right, that's so interesting to learn that, it's from a very young age that you found like you're drawn to film by watching particular films, and most of them were like in Bangladesh, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting because Asia, India, and all those places, they're really big in film. We're talking about Bollywood,
Yeah.
In Africa, we have Nollywood, if you've
Right.
ever
Yeah, no,
heard
I know.
about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and if you see me sweating, please, it's so hot. So we're just keeping up with the heat. Anyhow, yeah. So
Yeah.
was there any particular angle or type of storytelling that you were particularly drawn to? Or, how did you find out your niche in film?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
So I will be a storyteller. That decision was made quite in late teenage age.
Yeah.
Like, when I got interested in different forms of storytelling. So I have to share a little bit in this context. Firstly, the first 18 years, let's say, I like consuming storytelling when other people are making, and I like watching, and it's kind of a thing that I can watch day and night without a break.
Yeah.
That kind of passion I had. But we didn't have access in Bangladesh. By we, I mean in Bangladesh. That time, the time when I was growing up and, passing my teenage, didn't have access to all sorts of creative intellectual properties. Access in the form of library, archive, or now we have OTT platforms like Netflix. But that time we didn't have those things. So, but there were local communities of established filmmakers and academics who started forming groups of screening. But that was not official in the sense of run by university, no, run by any organization, no. So a few of my friends started going to those kind of workshops and screenings, and thereby I got to know a different form of storytelling world that I never got introduced to. I only got to know things that we see on TV or on cinema theaters. But the other form of storytelling, which is mostly maybe political in the sense of critical insights, in the sense of awakening, in the sense of enlightenment, in that sense that it's not only about an entertainment, but there's an education involved in it, that I got to know late. I had no idea that, the kind of films we see in different international festivals now, I had no idea of that. I got to know about that after 18, I would say. And then I realized that is the form of storytelling. I also have something to share and contribute. For the entertainment industry, I like consuming at that point, but I never found myself as a storyteller in that industry. I got attracted towards more edutainment, so education and entertainment is sort of mixed. That's how it started, that when I got introduced with different classic films that are not mainstream, but cracked various film festivals. And
when you talk about edutainment, some people may not understand, like, what is it? What is he talking about? What is edutainment? Could you explain to our viewers what you mean by edutainment?
Sure. So when we see education in the form of entertainment, but not mass consumption. So by which I mean, consider a book. The way a book is also something that any mass can consume, but it has more educational insights in it. So there are films which are made not only for the sake of consumption or mass entertainment, which has a bigger, different goal. I won't say bigger or smaller, rather I should say a different goal of entertainment. So those are considered, you can say now everything is edutainment at this moment, but they kind of lean towards education more than entertainment. The purpose there is not to entertain, but to enlighten. That is the difference.
Not to entertain, but to enlighten.
Right. So the way we see any, even religious books, religious stories, oral storytelling, cultural traditions, we all got to know all these things, all this education and information through various sorts of entertainment, like theater, drama, storytelling. The purpose literature serves, poetry. It's not only for entertainment, but film also kind of. I didn't know it. I mean, it was it is a part of literature, but I was not introduced to those kind of films that I could consider literature until I was 18. That's what I'm saying. So after that, I got to see, so it's like Shakespeare's classic, like Ngugi's writing. So film can also be something like that. Absolutely. That I got to know later. And what are those kind of films, and started watching something that I was never introduced to.
Oh, wow, interesting. So yeah, listening to you, one thing that comes to mind is, like most filmmakers, when they're shooting, they think about, artistic expression and, audience engagement. So in your style, what kind of voice, do you use in your filmmaking when it comes to artistic expression and, audience engagement? Do you ever look at those?
So audience engagement, I don't look at that at all. That's not something I don't like. I'm not saying that. I'm not capable of it. I would rather say my brain cannot. I'm a failure in that sense. I cannot process, or I cannot treat a subject based on the audience engagement, or I cannot analyze, let's put it in that way. So, you know what I mean? And it's a different set of skills if someone wants to analyze audience first. My approach is a little different, which is mostly we see in many other filmmakers. Different not in that sense. I prioritize the content as alive. That's my approach. So it's not like I, as a director, will have control over it. I let the story be alive, and I try not to control it. So the story tells me what to do, what kind of voice, as you asked, what kind of aesthetics or creative approach I should use depends on the story. Even it's a fiction or non-fiction film, like even if it's a documentary or a fiction, the story has its life. The story has its voice that is individual and that can surpass my vision. So that's how I treat it. Yeah.
Interesting. And when it comes to film, I hear some filmmakers they like a particular side of film. There's people who like being, like just creative directors or whatever. Do you like a particular role in film, or how do you approach your film?
Yeah. Firstly, I like writing the script. I used to write my own scripts. Did I ever work on other scripts? I did a lot of work on adaptations, like that exists already in the form of drama or poetry or novel and short story, and adapt it into a script. So I used to write. Most of my works are adaptations, by the way. Like I pick up a story from the world literature, if I like something, and transform it into a script. That's what I did. So script writing, and then cinematography, like working with the camera. I mostly use my. I may have a director, a photographer, or a cinematographer, but in only when I am using multi-camera production. Mostly I use my own cameras. So I don't only direct, I also use the camera. And thirdly, I would say editing. I edit my own films. Okay. Coloring, footage, assembling. So what else? Okay. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
All right. That's really interesting to hear all these aspects of different kinds of filmmaking, different styles, different voices. When we come back, we are going to hear about Shams, academia in his academic background, what, really drove him into filmmaking to come and study PhD when we come back. Yeah, welcome back to this episode of The Voice Watch Diaspora. I'm back here with the filmmaker himself, Shams. And Shams, tell us about your academic journey in this whole film industry.
Oh, thank you. My academic journey started right after my master's in the university level. But after my undergrad degree, I graduated in English literature. So that was my bachelor's and master's in. And that's because that time when I was studying, I didn't have a film school back in Bangladesh. Otherwise, I wanted to be in film school. So it took a long time. 2012, I graduated, I completed my undergrad. And now I'm here in 2023 in the US in a film school first time. Yeah. It's my first time in a film school at Indiana University, as I said in the beginning. So cut to where I was in 2012, when I finished my undergrad, I started teaching in school, high school. And I was teaching English. And then I finished my master's and I started teaching at Notre Dame University. That is a missionary Catholic university in Bangladesh, run by the same Notre Dame, kind of funded by the same Notre Dame we have around the world. So
the Notre Dame in
Bangladesh.
In Bangladesh?
Right.
Okay.
Notre Dame in Bangladesh started.
Because when we talk about Notre Dame, the first thing that comes into mind is the Notre Dame in Paris.
Yeah, they have also some one in Paris, one in Indiana.
Okay.
There's a university also here in Indiana.
Yeah, exactly. You also tell us about.
Yeah. I was also working there. So the way it started, 2012, I finished my undergrad, started teaching high school, and I realized I'm comfortable in teaching profession. And then I wanted to teach at the university level. So, and I was delaying my master's. I didn't want to do my master's in English. I wanted to do in cinema. But as I said, there were no film schools right then, back at that time. Now we have a few film schools back in Bangladesh. But that time, there were not enough at all. So 2015, I finished my master's in English again. And then I joined 2016 Notre Dame University, Bangladesh. And I taught there at the university level for 5 years. And right after pandemic, 2021.
You taught at the university level in Bangladesh?
Bangladesh for 5 years.
And by that time you had a master's?
Yeah. I finished my master's in 2015.
What were you teaching in the
English literature?
English literature?
Mostly theater and poetry. And also we had one course, right now I'm not teaching anymore, that's why. Not teaching there. The course named Literature and Visual Media. And we have a lot of literature and visual media courses there. I used to teach that as well, where we work on also adaptations, how literature text from page to screen, how that transformation happens. And from 2015 to 2021, 2016 to 2021, 5 years I taught at Notre Dame. And 2021, I got a fellowship to teach as a visiting faculty here at Notre Dame in Indiana. And I applied for it. And that's how I came in the US. But yet until 2021, I didn't have the purpose of
a fellowship to come and teach in Notre Dame in Indiana?
Indiana.
What were you teaching in Indiana?
Same, English writing and mostly writing courses I was teaching.
And is that Notre Dame University?
Yeah, Notre Dame here.
Okay, so coming from Notre Dame University in Bangladesh
to
Notre Dame
US,
University in Indiana.
You're right. Yeah, so that was a big leap for me.
Yes.
It was not a
that's what
it was not a planned thing like that. It was just, okay, so it's a long story now. It's a long story how that happened. I never wanted to leave Bangladesh.
Yeah.
That's one story.
Wow. Because everyone wants to live not everyone.
But I mean, most of the people, right. Let's put it in this way. Yeah. Yes, I studied a lot. I worked a lot. I was working a lot during my undergrad degree as well. Yeah. So it was not quite appreciated in the context of Bangladesh, in the kind of religious context where I was brought up to perform performative arts, theater, cinema. So,
let me
there is a little,
when you talk about this religious aspect that it was not appreciated, can you tell us a little bit more that what was not appreciated and, why was it not appreciated?
Okay, so I don't know how much detail I can go in that sense. Please because it can be controversial. So So yeah, what I mean is first of all, we would
Film
see.
is about details.
Yeah, so right. That's true. But I don't want to hurt also people's feelings in that sense, like people's beliefs particularly, and that's a very sensitive area. Yeah. But let's put it this way. Now my family is okay, and they appreciated it, But back then, I understand their concern as well. Like the community where I was born and I was growing up, especially in a place which is, let's put it in the sense of the global world, like underprivileged or underdeveloped countries and communities, people are more concerned about the financial and economic sustainability of professions when parents decide or suggest professions for kids. Where I was born and I was growing up, I'm the first one in this field in my family. Others are in very traditional, financially sustainable fields in that sense. This is a very uncertain field. You don't know when success will come.
When you talk about financially sustainable, fields, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about banking, finance, business, economics, engineering, medical science, and all these. But as I was a very good student throughout my life, that's true. I was studious in that sense. And I when I decided to study literature and I started doing theater at the same time. I used to be a theater performer, and then I started theater direction and writing for theater as well. Because, and after theater, I switched to cinema. So my journey was literature, theater, and then film. So it was not appreciated in that context. It's kind of a taboo. Yeah. It's something going against the grain, as well as it's
not seen as something that
it's not in that sense. Let's put it in this way. It's quite heavy in a sense. In my sense, where I was growing up, I'm not generalizing it. I had become an outcast because I'm not following the rules of the caste. Let's put it in that way. There are certain rules when you live in a community, certain traditions that you maintain, and in those traditions, cinema and theater.
Just 1 minute. You spoke about following the rules of the caste. Do you come from a caste system, or?
I mean, caste as in like a group of community. I mean, not in the sense.
Not the usual caste system.
Right. Yeah. It depends. I come from Bangladesh, and my background, I was born and grew up in a Muslim family. So there is no another caste system in that. It's just the religious rules that was formulating how to go to heaven and how to go to hell. Let's put it in that way. So the things that I started doing, even though I had a very academic purpose of doing it, not at all from the sense of entertainment. Yet it was tough to convey the message because the way I was, as I said in the earlier section of the interview, I was not aware of the education aspect of media. My parents as well, or my relatives, or my community, the neighborhood as well, they didn't have the sense of that aspect of media and visual arts and cinema and theater. They only had one aspect, and that one aspect was the entertainment aspect, which is a very fragile industry at that moment, at least in Bangladesh. It was not a secured industry that you study and you do the job. You take the responsibility of the family, and you are financially secured.
But here now you are in Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Boom.
So I'm blessed in that sense. I'm happy that, yeah. So the way Notre Dame thing happened, after pandemic, I decided to explore my ambitions more. Back in Bangladesh, I was working a lot. I left my home quite early. As I said, because of the family unappreciated aspect towards what I do. I left family quite after my teenage. Family as in, no, we were in touch. The love relationship is always there.
But when you're coming, did they support your coming, or you just depended entirely on the fellowship?
On the fellowship, completely, yeah.
Okay. So family was not involved in it?
Right, no, not at all. Not at all in this career, because no one in my whole history of family were in this field. At least in this field of any kind of performative and creative arts. That's what I would say. And they're in traditional fields. They are successful in their own way in different fields. There are people like that, but someone in banking, someone in engineering, or some stuff like that. But or science.
It's interesting because at that age, your teenage, or at that early age, you feel like you need the support of the family. So it's tough getting to
Yeah, I was kicked out. I was kicked out of the home. Right, let's put it in that way. Yeah.
How did you navigate it? How did you?
So I left home. Maybe I was 21.
Yeah.
I left, and then I was in touch with them in conversation, talking to my mom and stuff like that. But I left and started staying wherever I could for a temporary time. So let's say homeless a bit, and then started living with friends to navigate. And then I started teaching, giving tuition to students. That's the available job I got right away. Teaching kids, and that's how I could support myself during my undergrad times. So I started teaching kids, and that was a huge support. Gradually it became, and then I realized I'm good in teaching because it was booming when I was tuitioning kids, and I was tuitioning only literature and writing courses and stuff like that. And that writing course was also taught at Notre Dame here in the US. And when I applied for the fellowship, I came here. It's a teachers exchange program they have, because it was also, I must credit Notre Dame in Bangladesh as well, because I was working there. So from that Notre Dame to this Notre Dame, you can say they send me here. to explore my potentials, to learn and to get training. And that's how I came. That was on J1 category when I first came. Yeah. It was a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
But I was getting along quite well with my colleagues and office here at Notre Dame. And then they offered for a second year offer. Then I informed my home institution that I can accept the second year offer or not. And that's how things went good. I taught here 2 years. While teaching here for 2 years, I decided I don't want to be an adjunct or visiting faculty anymore only. I want something permanent in life. And so I should do PhD. And then what should I do PhD on? Should I go back to literature, what was my undergrad and bachelor's and master's? But then I realized I should follow my dreams and passion that I had for cinema. Yeah. So I should apply for media schools. And then I'm here at Indian University in Media Arts and Science, my PhD program in cinema studies. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so.
Wow, that's interesting. Listening to your journey and everyone, all the young people listening to your journey. I mean, it's phenomenal, going against the grain, your people just leaving you at that early age, and you managed to pursue and be here at the, Indiana University doing your PhD program. I must say kudos to you. So tell us a bit more about the PhD program here. How is that going? Are you focusing on particular aspects of film, or how does it work?
Oh, so here, in terms of research, it's my focus is environment, climate change, and the role of visual arts, not only cinema. So whether anywhere we see audiovisual as a medium of creative storytelling, whether in the form of installation art, exhibition, or cinema, documentary or fiction. Yeah. So I'm looking at artifacts from all around the world as far as I can access right now. And I'm looking at eco-cinema, or how ecology and environment and human and nature's relationship is presented on screen, through camera. So that's what my research interest is.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Talking about climate issues is an area that I'm really passionate about, the environment. Are you thinking about, have you shot rather any films and let's start to do with the environment to begin with?
Yes, I have been trying a lot to think of something innovative and come up with something new idea. But as I said, I let the story grow rather than pinpointing my own vision and version. I let it grow on its own like a plant. So I believe the role of a filmmaker, and also the role as a teacher, is not to dominate the story or student, but I work like a water on the plant. The plant will grow on itself, like a story will grow on its own. I just have to be aware enough to make sure it's getting sunlight, and I'm watering the plant enough, whatever is needed. So that's how my approach, as I said, is. And in that sense, I recently got a good story that I started filming. So I went back in Bangladesh this summer. Yeah. And then I went to a recycle factory where they recycle the trash of the whole city, the capital. And the people who work there are all women who are climate refugees. They lost their houses because of river erosion or some sort of climate displacement. And they don't leave their place because they lost it. They come to the city for work. And that's the most available job they have. Right away, they can start to work in the trash industry. The way the whole city trash is recycled, and there are lots of labor involved and needed as well. So they start right away. And I went there to film their stories. So I'm working on that now. And it was very interesting. When I went there, I had to go down to that trash, actually, because the whole place is trash where they work. So yeah, that's the project. I would say I recently started climate refugee storytelling and how this recycle industry is functioning in Bangladesh.
Wonderful. That sounds like a really interesting story, looking at two different perspectives and how they come together to make something, worthwhile, or rather for a worthy cause, So one thing, I was looking at some of your works and I came across one of the stories that I think you're featuring one filmmaker or something like that? The story of clay, the film about clay.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Can you tell us something about it?
Sure. It was Professor Malcolm Mobuto Smith in the Fine Arts School here in IU. And so I'll go back to what I said. Rather than coming up with a story, I look for stories that already exist around me. And I got to be open enough to see that. That's the only exercise I would say as a practitioner I try to practice. So I start looking at, meeting people like friends like you and getting to know your story, and then coming up with how will I visually see it if I see it in a film. So the clay professor, he's a professor of ceramics, and he's an artist. So he makes pottery and sculptures. And I started spending time with him. I requested him that, can I be in your studio while you make your own artifacts, so I can see the process, so that I can be in that environment. And then I started filming as well, his process, and then started talking a bit about his process. And then he started sharing his stories, his childhood, so the way we are having it right now. And that's what I do with many artists, painters, filmmakers. So most of my documentaries, you would see characters are artists. I just requested them, whatever you're doing, allow me to be there. That's it. And then at a point when so it's like, it's not the camera is on and they're working as a character. They will do it even if I'm not there, even if I don't exist. And I like to be in that space that you are doing what you're doing, even if I'm not here. And then allow me to blend in that environment. So I went there day 1, day 2, day 3, and then started talking after a few days. But he was always doing, even if I say cut, my camera is packed up, but he didn't stop. And that's the loveliest thing I can see, the passion and the knowledge in most of the professionals that I have interviewed. So Malcolm Mobuto Smith, I feel very associated with clay and soil. It is life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it gives life.
Yeah.
It is something that makes us rooted and connected. So and it's already there. The interesting philosophy that I have in film making, also I see in clay making. That's why I picked up that story and to tell his story. And the connection is, the art already is there in a sculpture.
Yeah.
You just sculpt it and make it visible to others. But the art already exists. As a clay artist, you're not creating something out of zero, out of nothing, out of scratch. You're creating what already exists inside the clay, in the clay. So for film as well, I feel the stories are also existing around me. And I just need to know how to sculpt it. So that's the learning process. That's it. Yeah.
And so, well, you're here at Indiana University. You're almost you're in your second year in PhD program.
Right.
You're in your second year.
I finished my second year.
Yeah, you finished your second year. So at some point you want to finish this course, the PhD program. Are you looking at going into academia, or are you looking into, going full-time into filmmaking? What are you looking at after your
I thank you for the question. That's a very interesting one. I prefer to be in the academia, first of all, but my preference is also aligned with, there has to be a film making course, whether MFA or BFA or film equipment resource on campus. I won't make films, maybe. My first priority won't be making films outside academia. I will be making films, but within the academia. So that's what my interest is, to be in the academia. And then as an academic, I can access more grants and I can access equipments to learn new stuff. I can experiment with technologies rather than buying my own technology all the time, changing the equipments. In every 6 months, things get updated. So campus, I find more comfortable to learn and experiment with.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this whole film industry, some people have very unique ways of presenting themselves. When I look at you, you have a unique way of presenting yourself. You have this very interesting style, and you're very stylish. Tell us, does it influence like your filmmaking, or briefly?
Mostly, I would say the last 10-15 years, maybe I was the same. I don't know. I mean, like I don't know. What is it called? It just happened. So it's whatever my outlook, my dressing sense, mostly including my hair and jewelries. It has been the same for the last 10, 15 years. It was not something that I would say I designed it to be like that. I rather went with the flow, whatever it felt like. I won't say I picked it up. I won't say this is what I want it to be. It's not like
that you grew up with,
right? It's something that happened, right? It's just at a point in life, I thought I should wear this and that
and keep it.
It
absolutely looks good on you. And when we come back, we'll get to hear more
you so
from Shams about his lifestyle and more.